All right, welcome into the show. We're live here on Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. Chase Sr. here with you. Hope all of you out there are having a fantastic Wednesday. And as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, we appreciate you for being a part of the show here today. We're going to go live discussing the Nakobe Dean injury placed on IR with a Lisfranc sprain, going to be out indefinitely. That's not the only thing that we're talking about on today's show. Bye-week changes, and of course, we're going to be taking your questions as well live on the program here. Mike Garafolo, NFL Network, breaking the news just a little while ago on this Wednesday afternoon, saying that Nakobe Dean has been diagnosed with a Lisfranc sprain. He called the defensive signals to start the season for Philadelphia, was then out for 4 weeks with a different foot injury to a different foot. Now he will see a foot specialist to determine a course of action, but expected to be placed on IR. So for Philadelphia, you beat the Dallas Cowboys. That's great, but now you're without two starters. Dallas Goedert going to most likely go on IR with that forearm fracture, and now Nakobe Dean. Only getting started here on the show. We're going to talk about what this means. Some really interesting numbers to look at how Nicholas Morrow and Zach Cunningham have played this year, because now we're going to see more from those linebackers. But first, where are you watching from? Let me know in the chat right now. We're emanating live from the Chat Sports Studios in Dallas, Texas, where last week during the Texas Rangers World Series parade, I did wear a Philadelphia Eagles jersey to that. I was called every name in the book, but it was Dallas week. I had to represent, and now I want you to represent where you're watching from. Let's see it. Think Tank, Atlanta. Jeffrey Crosborn is tuned in from Jersey. Big Sarge saying, so many injuries. HVH also sharing the sentiment that a lot of Eagles fans have. Another injury for this guy. Michael Gutierrez, what up from New Mexico? Big Sarge in Houston. Jeremiah Southard in Michigan. Rochester, New York from HVH. Eagles Nest from the West from Carlos. And then Todd, Tony, South Carolina. Godfrey Wilson in Tulsa. Continue to let us know where you're tuned in from. I even see Philadelphia in the house, Texas, Richmond, Virginia, Rhode Island from Jason Perry, and New Mexico from Junior Vila. Very cool to host a show that covers the Philadelphia Eagles and to see that the Bird Gang is spanning worldwide. Also, coming up on today's live program here on Eagles Now, bye week changes. And right now, going into the bye, you look at the NFC playoff picture, Philadelphia sitting in a pretty good spot. They have an NFL best 8-1 record going into the bye with a couple of really solid wins over the last couple of weeks against the Miami Dolphins, against the Dallas Cowboys, and with that, Philadelphia has that number one seed in this conference, and as long as they can continue to stack up victories here, Philadelphia does have an opportunity to once again clinch the number one seed in the NFC. Interesting playoff picture here with the Detroit Lions at that 2 spot, San Francisco 49ers after 3 straight losses, the 3 seed, New Orleans Saints because they're leading that awful NFC South at 5-4. They're occupying that 4th position. And then after that, Seattle Seahawks, Dallas Cowboys, Minnesota Vikings. Other teams kind of in the hunt. Washington Commanders still, Atlanta Falcons, even though they're not giving Bijan Robinson the ball inside the red zone. And then 3 and 5 teams include the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well as the Green Bay Packers. And you look ahead here at the Eagles' upcoming schedule. They will round out the regular season with some easy games. They take on the Giants twice in 3 weeks, and then sandwiched in between is the Arizona Cardinals. But these next 5 games going to be very difficult for Philadelphia coming out of the bye. But if they could just go like 3-2 in this stretch, and then they finish strong, they can still, once again, win 12, 13, maybe even 14 games. So you have the Kansas City Chiefs coming out of the bye on Monday Night Football, Super Bowl 57 rematch. Eagles, Bills at Lincoln Financial Field. We're going to have another opportunity to see the Birds and those Kelly Greens. Rematch of the NFC Championship game on the 3rd of December. Eagles, Niners in South Philly. The 10th of December, Eagles, Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. By the way, Eagles, Cowboys this past week, the most watched game in the NFL this season, nearly 30 million people on average, and then a difficult road game against the Seattle Seahawks. So obviously, during a lot of this stretch, They're going to be without Dallas Goedert and Nakobe Dean, maybe even for that full stretch. We'll certainly see, and I know that we'll keep you updated. And you know we'll keep you updated right here on the channel. So what will the Eagles' record be at the end of the season? 17 games. I want you to do the math. It is possible for this team to go 14-3, 13-4. What do you think the Eagles' record is going to be? I want you to get your best guesses down in the comment section here. We'll continue to give you shout-outs as we get closer and closer to starting the official show. Victor seeing a little bit of a struggle coming up for Philadelphia. He says 12-5, Wayne Toole 15-2, Mr. T 15-2, Bentley 14-3, Andrew Nathan 16-1, David Marcello, the real one, at 15-2. What up, Dave? Brian Moreno 14-3. Go Birds! Thunderbird 12-5. Javel Bledsoe at 13-4. I like the guesses there. How about Luis Reyes? 16-1. The Eagles don't lose another game the rest of the way. That would be wild right there. So shout out to everybody getting those record predictions in the chat. Shout out producer Chip for being on the ones and twos here today. Going live early, hustling, making it work so that we can bring you this Nakobe Dean injury news. We do want to hear from you during our third and final segment. How do you get involved on the show? It's very easy for you. Just use the hashtag Eagles, or if you want to tip the bartender and send us in a tip super chat, you can do that as well. Every super chat that comes in, guaranteed to be featured here on Eagles Now. So to be a part of our mailbag, one more time, get your questions in and your hot takes in, your observations in, and include hashtag Eagles in your comment. Or if you send us in a super chat, you'll skip the line and we will answer your questions first. If you're ready to talk some birds, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to do producer Chip a favor as well. I need you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. The more likes that we get, the more people who will hang out, the better that the show will be. Can we get to at least 60 likes with about 200 people watching live? What's cool, you'll see the likes go up, and then the views will go up as well. Support the program for free by liking the video right now. And of course, go Birds all the way. 200 people rocking with us. Recent commenter club, James Villanueva, Chester Wysinski, Ismail, Think Tank, Ziggy, JDM, Raymond McDonald, Jeremiah Pizarro, Todd Tony, Nuja. Appreciate y'all. Y'all are real ones. Also, for Sixers fans out there, join myself and producer Chip a little bit later on Philadelphia 76ers Now. We're going to be doing a watch party. Sixers, Celtics, both 5-1. So make sure you hang out with us a little bit later if you're into some hoops. All right, 56 likes. We need 4 more before we start the show. The bosses are telling me, Chase, you can't talk Eagles until you get to 60 likes. And then we'll let it rip here, and we'll start off with this breaking news around Nakobe Dean. James Villanueva, he just liked the video. We got to 60. Appreciate y'all for being here with us. We have a loaded show on the docket for today's Philadelphia Eagles Now. So let's talk some birds. E-A-G-L-E-S. The official show starts right now. Some breaking news to get to on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. No matter where you are, how you're tuned in, as always, thank you so much for your support of the show. So many content options out there. That's why we're so thankful that you chose us. As for that breaking news, Nakobe Dean placed on IR with a Lisfranc sprain that he suffered in that win against the Dallas Cowboys. He is now out indefinitely. And coming up on today's show, what this means for Philadelphia, who's going to step in and replace him, all that and a lot more. Mike Garafolo, NFL Network, breaking the news just a little while ago on this Wednesday afternoon, saying that Dean has been diagnosed with a Lisfranc sprain. He was the one who was calling the defensive signals to start the year for this Eagles defense. Wearing that green dot, he will now see a foot specialist to determine a course of action, but he's expected to be placed on IR. So Philadelphia able to come out with a huge, massive win against the Dallas Cowboys, but they lose Dallas Goedert, all-world tight end, with a forearm fracture, and now they lose Nakobe Dean with this Lisfranc sprain. He did miss 4 games earlier this year with a different foot injury. That was a different foot injury on a different foot. Important to note that. And my instant reaction when I saw this news, this is tough news for Nakobe Dean. Year 2 player, great opportunity to be one of the captains of this Eagles defense. Studied engineering at the University of Georgia, where he won a couple of national championships. And for Nakobe Dean there, he was heralded as a great instinctual player and a captain on that squad. Barely played as a rookie after he slid to the Eagles in the draft 2 years ago. And now he gets playing time to start the year. He calls the defensive plays, suffers one foot injury, comes back, and now he's out once again. So for him, has a lot of talent, but hasn't been able to develop because of those aforementioned injuries. And his inexperience as we project forward for his career, for this Eagles defense, it's a little bit problematic. And I'm not going to act and sit here and say that Nakobe Dean was great in coverage as a linebacker against the pass game. But against the run, he was actually a very, very solid player, able to sniff some plays out and make some momentum-changing plays. 33 defensive snaps as a rookie last year coming out of Georgia. This year, 182. And you take a gander at his usage by game, this is a player whose development you want to see continue because he's an affordable player who does have a lot of talent. But going into the draft, a lot of people, including yours truly, a little bit worried about his lack of size, and maybe that lack of size is contributing to some injuries here in the early going. Against the Patriots, played 49 snaps, was good against the run, hurts his foot, so he's out against the Vikings, Bucks, Commanders, and Rams. Comes back against the Jets at MetLife. He logs 32 snaps against the Dolphins, 30. Commanders, highest workload of the season at 50. And then the Cowboys game cut short with only those 31 snaps, 182 total this year, as I noted. And his numbers in 2022, very, very small sample size, was a steady contributor on special teams, but played rarely for Jonathan Gannon's defense. 13 tackles, 9 solo, 1 tackle for loss, and 0 pass breakups. And then this year, you kind of got a peek at the versatility that he could potentially have against the run, against the pass, being used as a blitzer from time to time, being able to make tackles behind the line of scrimmage against the ground game. 30 tackles, a half sack, 2 tackles for loss, and 1 quarterback hit in those 5 games. Why he will be missed, I think he's a really, really solid player against the run. And this is an Eagles defense that actually ranks number 1 as a rushing defense among 32 teams in the National Football League. He's a high IQ player. This is the player who Sean Desai would call the plays into. He would relay that to the defense. That's what I mean by the green dot there. He's an instinctual linebacker, and this hurts his development long term. I will say, we're about to talk about this here in a bit, that Nicholas Morrow, Zach Cunningham, they have exceeded my expectations this year. They have played really well, and they've been better as off-ball pass coverage linebackers than Nakobe Dean, but it's way too early to say that he's a stiff against the pass. As for what the Eagles do from here, I don't think at this point that Howie Roseman is going to make a big move in free agency because there aren't big-ticket players out there. The NFL trade deadline is in the rear view, so the Eagles cannot fulfill Dean's spot by making a trade. But stay tuned because we're about to talk about some Nakobe Dean replacements coming up here in just a bit. This is why you subscribe to the channel, though, because when breaking news happens, we cover it. We're live here on Eagles Now. Thanks to everybody for being here. If you're watching this after the fact, that's why you hit that sub button, because we have you covered with daily coverage of the EAGLES Eagles. Before we continue to move forward on today's show, Odds Are is our presenting sponsor, and I got to tell you, luck is not a strategy. Odds Are, sign up, and you can see for yourself what we're talking about here. Download the app using that link at the bottom of your screen with Odds Are. What if there was an app that used AI and machine learning to suggest smart sports bets? There is, and it's called Odds Are. It is the mobile app that you need to know what bets of the day are the smart bets to place. Download the app, sign up for an account, and let the latest data analysis guide you through today's point spreads, money lines, and over-unders. You know me and producer Chip, we love wagering on these games. We talk about it during our watch parties all the time. We lay some money down, but we lay smart bets because of Odds Are. For instance, you look at the screen here. When you see green, that's a smart bet. If you see yellow, you're kind of on your own. And if you see red, the numbers don't back up that bet. So it's probably best and smartest to stay away from that bet so you have a better opportunity of winning money on game day. Odds Are doesn't take your bet, it makes you better at it. And with Odds Are on your mobile phone, you're a tap away from making a smart play. It's smart betting made simple to kind of summarize all of this. And you can find the Odds Are app in the App Store or on Google Play. Get a 2-week free trial. It's just $10 a month after that. The casinos and sports books, they want you to bet. Odds Are, and us here on Eagles Now, we want you to win. So go get it. NFL Daily listeners, Eagles Now listeners actually have a special deal too. Get your first 30 days of the app free. Just go to oddsare.com/NFL Daily to download the app. That's oddsare.com/NFL Daily. 30 days of smarter betting for free. We'd call that right there a winning bet. Some more news and notes to get to pertaining to this Nakobe Dean injury here. This Lisfranc sprain with the left foot. The foot injury that he suffered in September and forced him to go on IR originally was on a different foot, the right foot. And then this from Elliott Shore-Parks, that Cam Jurgens, right guard, who the Eagles have really struggled to run the football without him. Practice window was open last week going into that Cowboys game, but it was Tyler Steen who got the start at right guard because Jurgens wasn't ready. Him and Quez Watkins still on IR, but will eventually be coming off. If Nakobe Dean is indeed placed on injured reserve, it would open up a roster spot likely for Cam Jurgens. I actually think that Philadelphia is pretty set at that wide receiver position. I like the rotation now with A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith, Julio Jones, and Olamide Zaccheaus. I don't think this team really needs Quez Watkins right now. He's been way too inconsistent. Going back to the question that I teed up a little bit earlier, and the question that a lot of you are probably wondering, Nakobe Dean, most likely going on IR. Who is going to replace him? The first option here is Nicholas Morrow, who didn't make the Eagles' initial 53-man roster. The Eagles brought him back to the practice squad. Then once they activated him to the active roster during that first Dean injury, he played great, and he's actually been one of the highest-graded linebackers in the National Football League this year. A classic Howie Roseman signing. Really good bang for your buck. Overall grade for Morrow coming over from the Chicago Bears of 84.9. Run defense grade of 75.3. We've seen Sean Desai use him as a blitzer quite often, and because of that, he has 3 sacks this season and a pass rush grade of 91.3. Dean has struggled in coverage, whereas Morrow has been very good. 76.7 coverage grade, 2 forced fumbles. So he's had a knack for making good plays, 255 coverage snaps, and only 2 missed tackles. As for the other linebacker who's going to be paired up with Morrow as the off-ball linebacker, as Philadelphia runs that hybrid front and second level under Sean Desai as a Vic Fangio disciple, Zach Cunningham has also been a pleasant surprise. And Cunningham has really come out of nowhere to impress a lot of people. Wasn't even with this team at the start of the preseason or training camp. The Eagles realized that they needed to bulk up that linebacker spot, so they brought in Cunningham, they activated Morrow, and they have both been very serviceable players to kind of step in there for TJ Edwards and Kaiser White. For Cunningham, overall grade of 70.9, a run defense grade of 66.7, pass rush grade of 51.3. Pretty solid coverage grade there for Cunningham on top of Morrow's at 73.4. Cunningham hasn't really been used as a blitzer in this defense. He's more so used as that off-ball coverage linebacker. Great hit on Dak Prescott, teaming up with Darius Slay to kind of upend Dak on his way to the end zone. 0 forced fumbles, but 348 coverage snaps. He's played a lot more as compared to Nakobe Dean, and then 7 missed tackles for him. As for how those Pro Football Focus numbers compare to Nakobe Dean, here are Dean's numbers. Overall grade of 61.7. Really good against the run, as I noted a little bit earlier, at 80.2 for Nakobe. Pass rush grade of 83.4, but Nakobe Dean has not been good in coverage. 49.2 coverage grade for the second-year player out of Georgia. He's allowed a passer rating of 102.4. That is one of the lowest among starting off-ball linebackers in the NFL, but why I like Dean, again, the instinctual player that he is, has 11 stops. So he's able to come up to the line of scrimmage and make some plays there. So with that, I do tee up this poll question, and I want to hear from you. Is Howie Roseman now going to make an external move? Is he going to look at the linebacker market in free agency? And should he? What do you think? Do the Eagles need to bring in a linebacker? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. And with that, we appreciate y'all for watching today's show. Couple of super chats coming in there. The first one from David Marcella, $5 donation. I'm glad Dean is out. He's not ready to lead this defense. I think Morrow and Cunningham are the players that will get it done. What do you think? So it's good that you sent in that super chat at the start of the show because I was really able to relay my thoughts on Dean, on Morrow, on Cunningham. This Eagles defense, when Dean was out, didn't really miss a beat at all. I more so just want to see him from a player development standpoint because I do believe in the player, and I think that he can be good over time. But to answer your question, David, I talked about that during the segment there. Andrew Nathan, $10 super chat. We'll include these in our mailbag as well coming up. Chase, since Barnett was inactive on Sunday, is it safe to say that he's lost favor with the coaching staff? Could we see more of BG because of his performance on Sunday? So you got to be a little bit careful with Brandon Graham. I know he had a career year last year with those 11 sacks, and it was really a revelation for him. And how about BG? Eagles legend, 35 years old this year, but 34 last year, having a career year. It's the first time he's ever had double-digit sacks. I think you could see more of him, but I actually think it's another player that we're going to continue to see more of, Andrew. We're going to continue to see more of Nolan Smith. And if you give that speed, edge rushing combination on the other side from Hassan Reddick, those are two speed options coming from both sides, and then you let kind of Fletcher Cox or Jordan Davis or Jalen Carter on the inside kind of feast on interior offensive linemen, I do think it helps out this team a lot when you can kind of mix up those fronts a little bit. But BG, he was awesome for this Eagles team. You know, he forced Dak Prescott out on that 2-point attempt that kept it at a 5-point game, which is why the Cowboys needed a touchdown late to win it instead of a field goal to force overtime. Had that crucial sack as well, a couple of really good pressures. Hopefully he's starting to come on because up until that point and up until that Cowboys game, hadn't registered a sack this year. And then Andrew Nathan with another one, $5 super chat. I would like us to sign JPP, Melvin Ingram, or Carlos Dunlap to the squad. Nolan has promised, but needs to be faster and stronger using his hands. I will say that right now, you know, Nolan Smith looks to be a little bit of an undersized player, but he really is a Hassan Reddick type of clone. Very similar builds, similar twitch speed and athleticism coming off the edge. But Reddick, coming out of Temple, even though he was a first-round pick, he didn't take the world by storm and the league by storm. It actually took him a couple of years to build up his body, hone in on some of those pass rush moves. I think Nolan Smith can kind of do the same. JPP is certainly an interesting name. Again, more on that coming up during our mailbag, and we'll include those super chats. If you want to be like Andrew, you want to be like David, and you want your name featured here on the show, use hashtag Eagles or send us in a super chat to ask us anything. We're already up to $20 in super chats. If we get to 100, I will do a beer bong, and then I will chant EAGLES if we get there. So I'll make that deal with everybody. All right, coming up next here on the show, we're not done. We're going to keep it moving here. Bye-week changes for Philadelphia. I kind of racked my brain a little bit, evaluated this team throughout the first 9 weeks of the season, and I have some bye-week changes I want the Eagles to make. We're going to get to that next. First, though, 270 people watching live. If you want to support the show for free, as you come in here, show us some love, like the video. More likes that we get, the more people who will be here. How about Kane Angel watching from England, overseas? What time is it over there? And then we have Cool Rains tuned in from Australia. Very cool. Terry Wormley letting us know that he's rocking and rolling with us from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Charlotte? I was born in Charlotte.
You were born in Charlotte?
I moved when I was like 4.
All right.
So, you know.
Did not know that. Watching from Columbia, South Carolina.
Columbia. Very close to Clemson.
Yeah.
Been there a few times.
9:15 p.m. in England. Lamont Lancaster, one of our Bird's Nest Hall of Famers, watching from West Philly. David Marcella, another $5 super chat. I think they should try a 5-3 front, 5 down, 2 linebackers, 1 strong safety, 2 corners, 1 deep safety. What do you think? David Marcella showing off the football schematic intellect right there. That's good shit, man. I'm always a fan of kind of that bear front, which is 5 linemen. The Eagles do that from time to time, and that's kind of a byproduct of having a couple of stand-up edge rushers / outside linebackers on the team, and Hassan Reddick as well as Nolan Smith. And then that allows you to have like a Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Jordan Davis, and or Jalen Carter on the field at the same time. And I like that because I do think that throughout the course of a game, with all of the snaps that do transpire, it gives you a matchup advantage on the opposing offensive line if you have different looks that you can pose toward the offensive line, but also to the quarterback as well. So, David, I kind of like it. The issue with the slot cornerback right now for Philadelphia, and we're going to talk about that on our next segment, everybody that Sean Desai used to play the slot last week, they got cooked by C.D. Lamb. More on that in a moment. So coming up next here, don't you dare go anywhere. Bye week changes for the Birds. Let's get to it here. Coming up on today's Philadelphia Eagles, now the Birds 8-1 record going into the bye week. And I've evaluated this team every single week. So going into the bye, I came up with some bye week changes I want to see the Eagles make. And with that, you take a look at the NFC playoff picture to see how the Eagles are sitting right now in the NFC going into the bye and what type of changes they have to make working off of this. Philadelphia, league best record at 8-1, number 1 seed in the NFC. And right now, this playoff picture is very fascinating at about the halfway pull of the regular season. You have the Eagles there in that number 1 position, the Detroit Lions, upstart organization under Dan Campbell at 6-2. San Francisco 49ers, they've lost 3 consecutive games, and with that, they're the 3 seed in the NFC. The New Orleans Saints at 5-4, leaders of what is a very lackluster division in the NFC South. And then after that, Seahawks in that 5th position at 5-3, the Cowboys 6th seed at 5-3. And the Minnesota Vikings on a 4-game tear right now without Kirk Cousins. Josh Dobbs now going to be the starter moving forward. A heroic effort from him last week to lead a comeback win over Atlanta after the Vikings traded for him leading up to the NFL trade deadline. They're at 5-4, and then the other teams in the hunt, you have Washington and Atlanta at 4-5, and then the Bucs and Green Bay Packers at 3-5 there. You look at some of the matchups that would take place if the season were to end right now. Eagles would get that bye week, allowing them to recharge and get a little bit healthier. How about Niners and Cowboys in the wild card round? That could get crazy for sure. And the Eagles' upcoming schedule coming out of the bye week. This allows us to kind of set the foundation for some of the bye week changes that I want to see this coaching staff make. Super Bowl 57 rematch on the road, Arrowhead Stadium against the Kansas City Chiefs on the 20th of November. That'll be a Monday night football game. We'll be back for another watch party, so make sure you subscribe. Then the Eagles come back home to take on the Buffalo Bills. Going to be rocking the Kelly green jerseys there. Eagles-Niners rematch of the NFC Championship game. Much awaited test on the 3rd of December to kind of kick off that month. And then on the 10th of December, Eagles-Cowboys in Arlington, Sunday night football. And then another really difficult road game here. Eagles in the Pacific Northwest against the Seattle Seahawks. This 5-game stretch here going to be arduous for this football team. But they come out of it 3-2, still sitting really pretty because at the end of the year, 2 of the last 3 weeks, they take on the Giants with the Arizona Cardinals sandwiched in between. So the bye week changes, and some of the things that I want to see going into this bye and coming out of it, number 1, you got to get quarterback Jalen Hurts healthy. He's been hobbled for a while with the knee injury, re-aggravated it against the Dallas Cowboys. He was in a lot of pain, and for about 15, 20 seconds, the whole city of Philadelphia and Eagles fans everywhere, we were very worried after he took that helmet to the knee. I think there's a blessing in disguise here, though, with Jalen Hurts being hurt because he hasn't run it as much. And because of that, Hurts has had to win from the pocket, and he has flourished. He has been successful in growing and developing as a pocket passer. Hurts at the bye week through 9 games, He's completing nearly 69% of his passes. He's thrown for 15 touchdowns, 8 picks, 97 rating, 88 rushing attempts for 316 yards, and then 7 touchdowns. So he's combined here for 22 touchdowns and 8 picks. That's not bad. And what's crazy is that with this tear that Hurts has been on from 2022 going into this year and the development that we've seen taking place, you stack up Hurts' numbers from the start of 2022 all the way through this year, and you compare those numbers with Patrick Mahomes, these are very even players here. Passer rating for Mahomes, 102.3. Hurts, 99.7. Passing and rushing touchdowns, Mahomes was 62. Hurts, behind him, 5 less with 57. Completion percentage, very close here. Mahomes at 67.6. Hurts at 67.5. Interceptions, Mahomes has thrown more with 20. Of course, more passing attempts to Hurts' 14. Total turnovers, Mahomes also has more, 22-18. While Mahomes airs it out more, Hurts runs it more, so the ball is in his hands a lot. Yards per attempt, Hurts actually averaging more, 7.9 to Mahomes' 7.8. Passing and rushing yards per game, Mahomes at 320, Hurts at 296. And the record here, this is very important. A lot of people don't think that wins are a quarterback stat. I think the quarterback sets the tone for the rest of your organization. Mahomes has been 21-5 since the start of 2022. Jalen Hurts, 22-2 in the regular season. And Jalen Hurts, just the leader that you want in your football team. So cool, calm, and collected, plays great from behind as he's done all throughout this year, embarking on a couple of epic comebacks for this football team. And when he says something like this is so Philadelphia that it hurts. He said after that Cowboys game, when asked about that knee injury, for this team, for this city, I will do anything. Inject it into my veins right now. Change number 2 for this Eagles team during the bye week. You got to get the run game back on track. It's great that Hurts is dotting balls left and right at all 3 levels of the field from sideline to sideline. But this Eagles ground game has been non-existent for about a month and change here. And you look at some of the splits for this Eagles rushing attack, weeks 1 through 4. Remember when DeAndre Swift, after not getting utilized week 1 against the Patriots, what a crime, went on that tear? Eagles as a team, 140 carries in weeks 1 through 4, 661 yards, average yards per carry at 4.7 with 5 rushing touchdowns. Cam Jurgens goes out, and in weeks 5 through 9, this rushing attack has really vanished. 150 carries, so more of a workload here, but down in yards from 661 to 506. Yards per carry is down by 1.3 yards from 4.7 to 3.4. Touchdowns go up, but that number is misleading because of how successful the Eagles are with running the best play in football, the brotherly shove. If you hate it, suck it. So will Cam Jurgens' return help this ground game find its groove? You would hope so. And you would imagine that Jurgens, coming off that foot injury, is going to come back against the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium on Monday Night Football. I just think that, yes, it's great that in a passing league, Hurts is making monumental strides and chucking the rock, but the more diverse that you are as an offense, the harder that you are to stop. And as we get closer to December, January, hopefully February for this team, you're going to be going up against some really stout defenses. They're going to offer and show you different styles of defenses. Some of the defensive coordinators will mix up their looks. The weather also changes, though. So why I like the Eagles and why I think that they're the best team in football, they're more multiple than any team. They can win in a pass-happy shootout. They can win in a defensive slugfest. They can win in running the football, but in order to win running the football, they just have to be a little bit better in that regard. Coming up next here on the show, maybe this is the biggest change that we need to see from this Eagles team and my biggest concern that could hold them back from ultimately lifting up the Lombardi Trophy. That's fixing the secondary, because the Eagles secondary has been one of the worst in the NFL. More on that in a moment, but this is our poll question for today's show. What is one change that you would implement for the Philadelphia Eagles going into the bye week? I want you to show off your football knowledge and your football intellect with me down in the comment section. Today's show, sponsored by Prize Picks. Get a $100 deposit match at prizepicks.com/CLNS. Even though the Birds are on a bye, producer Chip and I, we're going to continue to make our picks with Prize Picks. It's daily fantasy sports made easy, and this is the only app that you should be using if you're into DFS. It's also the largest independently run daily fantasy sports app in North America. You pick 2+ players. You choose more or less on their projected stat lines. You can win up to 25 times your money, and some celebrities are also in on Prize Picks. Not just me and producer Chip, Meek Mill in on it as well. Philadelphia legend, Dreams and Nightmares, what up? The picks that I like going into this week. Trevor Lawrence, I think, is going to be able to have success against that Niners defense through the air. 248.5 passing yards. Give me the more. Dak Prescott against the Giants, a team that they dispatched in week 1, 40-0, more than 243.5 yards. Look, I don't like Dak, but he did play well against this Eagles team. I think that continues. And Christian McCaffrey had some time to rest up during the bye week for San Francisco. He's still the leading rusher in the National Football League. I like more than 71.5 rushing yards. So again, a $100 deposit match only if you use our link down below. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use the code CLNS. All of that information is available for you in the comment section and in the description of this video. So going back to that point that I made about fixing this Eagles secondary, they've been leaky on the back end. They've been exposed on the back end, especially the last 2 weeks. Eagles couldn't really get a stop until late against Sam Howell and Dak Prescott. And you look at the discrepancy here with how this Eagles defense fares against the pass and how they're faring against the run. Pass yards per game, the Eagles are giving up 257 per contest. That is 29 of 32 in the NFL right now. Passing touchdowns allowed, tied for 31st in the NFL, with 19 passing touchdowns surrendered this year for this Eagles defense. If they can shore that up, they're already really good against the run because of how good they are along that defensive front and how they can manhandle opposing offensive lines. The Eagles' defense, number 1 in rushing yards allowed this year at 66.3. That's an elite figure. And then rushing touchdowns allowed, only 3 the entirety of this year through 9 games. That is tied for second in the NFL. And this is a dangerous way to play because the last 2 weeks we've seen this end up ringing true, where the Eagles were getting carved up by Sam Howell, couldn't get off the field on 3rd and 4th downs, couldn't really get a stop in the red zone. Then Dak Prescott was having a day from the pocket, but also extending plays out of structure. The Eagles right now are kind of pass rush, sack or bust reliant, and this burned them in the Super Bowl last year. The Sodfather had something to do with it potentially in Glendale, Arizona, but the Eagles could not get a sack against Patrick Mahomes. And what happened after recess? The only incompletion that he threw was on a throwaway because that secondary struggled. This is the one thing that could hold the Eagles back from winning a Super Bowl and bringing that second Lombardi trophy to Philadelphia, and I need a parade like I need air. The return of Bradley Roby could help this Eagles secondary, right? He's been out the last few games with that pec injury, made his debut against the Los Angeles Rams. I thought he played well considering who he had to cover and the assignments that he was given. Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. I think this will help the Eagles in the slot because last week they got cooked by C.D. Lamb. Sean Desai literally tried everybody against C.D. Lamb. It didn't work. No options worked. Look at these numbers from Jeff McClain, right? Eagles defense struggling to cover C.D. Lamb in the slot with a variety of players. Overall, they allowed a combined 13 of 15 completions to passing attempts for 206 yards and a touchdown. Eli Ricks, 32 snaps, allowed 4 of 4 passes for 72 yards. Kevin Byard, 15 snaps, 3 of 3 for 71 yards. Sidney Brown, maybe a little bit too slow, late to react in the slot, better as a safety, 13 snaps, 4 of 4 when targeted, 50 yards and a touchdown. Reed Blankenship, 8 snaps, 1 of 2 for no touchdowns. And then Darius Slay went up to Sean Desai late in that game and said, if Lamb is in the slot, I want him. He defended him. he fared very, very well. 1 of 2 for just 13 yards. So Bradley Roby expected to return after the bye week. He even confirmed that news on Twitter. And when he does come back, bolsters your depth with Eli Ricks being utilized more as a depth piece. But just because he's been in the league for a long time and you already have Darius Slay, James Bradbury on the outside, it could help this defense a lot. Another point of emphasis here. I think Philadelphia, especially with Dallas Goedert being out, has to get DeVonta Smith going. The injury to Goedert could allow Smitty to kind of break out and elevate his game. What a dime that Jalen Hurts dropped in the bucket to Smitty against the Cowboys on Sunday. Toe drag swag right along the sideline there. In the 5 games that Goedert missed in 2022, the Eagles tight ends totaled 14 catches for 143 yards and a touchdown. Their per-game average, 2.8 catches for just 28.6 yards. A positive spin on that, with Goedert being out, is that when he was missing those 5 games with that shoulder injury, DeVonta Smith played great. He averaged 5 receptions per game for 84 yards and scored 2 touchdowns during that span. And it's pretty crazy because A.J. Brown is having a career year. He already surpassed 1,000 receiving yards in 9 games already. And he has become the number 1 option for Jalen Hurts with this passing attack. And because of that, DeVonta Smith has taken a little bit of a step back. But he's still having a pretty damn good season, right? 42 catches, 533 yards, 4 touchdowns, a long of 63. You get him going, A.J. Brown going, and this ground game going. Those are the changes that makes this Eagles team really dangerous during the meat of their 2023 schedule. This is, I think, a little bit of an underrated storyline heading into the bye. With Goedert out, unleash Albert Okwuegbunam. I think that Albert O has all of the talent in the world. He is an atrocious blocker, but he could be a secret offensive weapon on this team to aid this passing attack. And the gifts that he has with his size, athleticism, jumping ability to pick up yards after the catch, he is a great developmental player for this Eagles organization. In his first 3 years since getting drafted out of Mizzou, where he played his college ball with Drew Lock, where he was one of the better players in the SEC, he has shown a lot of ability. A torn ACL early in his career kind of curtailed things a little bit, and then he slid down the depth chart under Nathaniel Hackett, and then Sean Payton came in and didn't envision a role for him. But year 1, 11 catches, 121 yards, and a touchdown. He got a little bit more time in 2021, 33 catches for 330 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then in 2022 was a healthy scratch for a majority of games, only 10 catches, 95 yards, and a touchdown. But he's by far and away the most talented tight end on this roster when you stack his ability up with Grant Calcaterra as well as Jack Stoll. And this Eagles offense over the last few years has done such a good job of maximizing players offensively and defensively. Albert O could be next up. If you enjoyed today's show, thought we brought you some good analysis, give me a real one down below because we appreciate you for supporting the program. And don't forget to subscribe. Flipping the bird. Bird's Nest Hall of Fame member, listening to you guys while working. I'm photographing a nice townhouse in Frederick, Maryland at the moment. Go Birds! Flipping the bird. Flipping the bird. Flipping the bird. One of our Super Chat MVPs since I took over the channel, FTB85. We appreciate you, man. Getting that work in, listening to Eagles Now. That's a fine and dandy Wednesday right there. Coming up next, mailbag. We want to hear from you. Get your questions in. If you have some analysis you want to pass along, some hot takes that you want thousands of people to see, use hashtag Eagles or Super Chat to ask us anything. Chip, give an update to the people as far as how we're doing with the questions coming in. For instance, I saw Cool Rains use hashtag Eagles. That's good stuff right there.
Yeah, we got some people doing it right already. Cool Rains, Andrew Nathan, Junior Villa, Hakeem, Jerome Myers, all using hashtag Eagles to ask a question. I'm seeing some people asking questions not using the hashtag. Got to use hashtag Eagles so we can get you here on the show. We want to answer your questions. We want to hear what you got to say. We can only do it if you use hashtag Eagles. You see that in the chat right now. Hashtag Eagles, get your question on air.
Cool Rains and David Marcel are saying, Real Johns, Real Johns? Use hashtag Eagles like Chip said. Kane Angel getting a good question in right there. We'll also include your Super Chats. And as I said, we're at $30 in Super Chats. If we get to 100, I'm going to do a beer bong followed by an EAGLES chant. Keep in mind, a lot of Cowboys fans are in the office here. They hate that Eagles chant.
Boo.
I want nothing more after the Eagles beat the Cowboys to let it rip with an Eagles chant. $70 more in donations, we're doing it. So hashtag Eagles or Super Chat. We should be good right now to start that, right? Cool, we'll hop right in. Continue to like the video, and if you haven't subscribed, you ain't alive. Hit that sub button right now. Cool Rains, Dallas is dirty. I like living here. I mean, it was 75 degrees when I went on my run this morning, but I did wear I wore an Eagles jersey at the Rangers World Series parade last week. I thought only fans were mean in Philadelphia. I was having people put their middle fingers in my face. They were calling me every name in the book, and all I said, we'll see you Sunday. One guy offered to bet me $1,000 that the Cowboys would win. I said, Eagles are getting that dub. Feels good to walk away with the victory for sure. All right, mailbag coming up. Let's take your questions. Let's take your comments, and let's dive in, and let's hear from the best subscribers on the YouTube universe. All right, here we go. Welcome into Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Hope all of you out there are having a fantastic day. We have a great show on tap for all of you as we take all of your questions here on Eagles Now. Might be the bye week, but our coverage doesn't stop, and that's why you subscribe to the program. Want to start here with this $5 super chat from the real one, David Marcella. He said, I'm glad that Nakobe Dean is out. He's not ready to lead this defense. I think Morrow and Cunningham are the players that will get it done. What do you think? So a lot of people look at Nicholas Morrow and his 3 sacks this year as more of a blitzing linebacker. Him and Zach Cunningham have actually been pretty good in coverage. Now, I want to see Nakobe Dean continue to develop because I do think he has a lot of ability, but he has been exposed a little bit when in coverage. He has a Pro Football Focus grade of 49.2, but his pass rush grade was really good before going out. His run defense grade, really good at 80.2 with the pass rush grade of 83.4. An overall grade for Nakobe Dean of 61.7. The issue, passer rating allowed of 102.4. So he can get better there, but he's one of those players where you look at him, he's a little bit smaller, but he's an instinctual player. He makes the right play at the right time. Studied engineering at Georgia. So obviously the coaching staff had confidence in him for him to wear that green dot to relay the plays to him. But when he did go out earlier with a different foot injury, by the way, this is a left foot injury, Lisfranc sprain earlier this season. It was a right foot injury. I didn't think this Eagles defense really missed a beat. I'm sad that Dean is out, but I think that Morrow and Cunningham have proved to be pretty solid players this year. Can we take a look at Nicholas Morrow's Pro Football Focus grades too, by the way? We do hope to have those graphics for you because Morrow's been a revelation. He's actually been one of the highest graded backers in the National Football League. Overall grade of 84.9, only 255 coverage snaps. For instance, Zach Cunningham has about 100 more, but run defense grade of 75.3, pass rush grade of 91.3, coverage grade of 76.7 with those 3 sacks. Andrew Nathan next up with the $10 super chat. Appreciate that, brother. Chase, since Derek Barnett was inactive on Sunday, is it safe to say that he's lost favor with the coaching staff? Could we see more of BG because of his performance on Sunday? Brandon Graham certainly turned the clocks back on Sunday against the Dallas Cowboys and had a couple of critical plays to help secure that victory. Chased down Dak Prescott on that 2-point try, not giving him the edge. That's what forced Dak to step out of bounds, and that was the reversal of the call, which made it a 3-point game into a 5-point game, and that's why the Cowboys had to score a touchdown late in that game. And then Derek Barnett had that really critical sack. I don't know if Sean Desai is going to play Brandon Graham more. I think he's going to continue to play BG normal snaps. I think actually what we might see is more from Nolan Smith. And Nick Sirianni kind of alluded to this during a news conference going into the Cowboys game, that they like Nolan Smith. He's a fantastic athlete, twitch, athleticism, burst coming off the edge, but the Eagles are just really deep along the defensive line. He said that before the Cowboys game, and then Derek Barnett was inactive. And Nolan Smith did get some snaps. For Brandon Graham, let's see, 104 pass rushing snaps this year. That's actually not all that much, but when he needed to make a play, he made a play against the Cowboys, and he has a pass rush grade of 79.8. It's kind of a combination of both. A little bit more from BG, a little bit more from Nolan Smith. Let's go back to David Marcella here. Super Chat's coming up first. I think they should try a 5-3, 5-down lineman, 2 linebackers, 1 strong safety, 2 corners, 1 deep safety. What do you think? I'm always a fan of that bear front that kind of Buddy Ryan introduced in the early 1990s with some of those legendary Eagles defenses. That's 5 down defensive linemen at the front. You could run a little 5-2. I would have no problems with that. The Eagles actually do that quite often to allow them to have like Hassan Reddick, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, and maybe a Nolan Smith all on the field. Different iterations of that, obviously. And then your 2 off-ball linebackers are Zach Cunningham and Nicholas Morrow. I kind of like the thought with Bradley Roby coming back of still going with 3 corners. And occasionally you could put Sidney Brown in the slot as well, mix up those safety looks to a certain degree. But definitely throughout the course of a football game, I always like making those necessary adjustments to give the offense different looks. And Sean Desai has done a lot of that there, David. Andrew Nathan back at it with the $5 super chat. I would like us to sign Jason Pierre-Paul, Melvin Ingram, or Carlos Dunlap to the squad. Nolan Smith has promise, but needs to be faster and stronger using his hands. He could use some more strength, and I think that'll come as he's in the NFL longer. He's just a young player, but that'll come with time. Jason Pierre-Paul is very interesting. He did say that he is willing to sign with a contenders practice squad. Eagles are a contender. They could have some opportunities available with that practice squad. JPP, best days are behind him. With Derek Barnett being a healthy scratch, I'm interested to see how the Eagles look at a player like JPP. I'm probably good on Melvin Ingram or Carlos Dunlap, but Jason Pierre-Paul certainly would be interesting. More of your questions coming up, but first, do you plan on going to an Eagles game this year, home or on the road? If the answer to that question is yes, you got to download the Game Time app because we can help you save on your tickets. How, Chase? $20 off using the code EaglesChat. I love Game Time because as the event gets closer, prices drop, and it's the best seats at the lowest price guaranteed. I went to the ALCS between the Astros and Rangers recently. I've gone to a couple of college football games. I also love live music, and I love going to comedy shows. I'm due to go to a comedy show because I could use some laughs during the busy nature of football season. And if I want to go to an event like that, because it's not only sporting events, I use Game Time. What's also cool about the app is the user interface. You can see where you'll be sitting, for instance, at Lincoln Financial Field, Bills, Eagles, Birds rocking the Kelly Greens, but the price point for where you'll be sitting. This is the list view, the vantage point from that seat, or you get the bird's eye view, looking at the map view, where you look down at Lincoln Financial Field. All the different seats available and the different price points. So, one more time, the code that you have to use for that deal to apply $20 off your checkout is EaglesChat. Redeem that code, and that link and all of that information is available for you right now down in the comment section and in the description of this video. More of your questions coming up. Jerome Myers, out of all of our injuries, which one do you think is the most impactful? I think the Eagles can survive being without Nakobe Dean. I think them being without Dallas Goedert hurts them. Nick Sirianni did make a good point in saying that you don't have to just focus on what tight ends replace Goedert. They can make up for that production elsewhere. For instance, getting DeVonta Smith more involved, getting Julio Jones more involved. So I do have trust in this coaching staff because I like how they think as far as game day strategy and game preparation. Hakeem 107, will this defensive scheme change after the bye? And if so, to what? I don't think Sean Desai is going to change this scheme. I will say this about Sean Desai. A lot of people aren't happy with the defense in the first half. He makes some really quality adjustments after halftime. Cowboys scored 17 points in the first half. After that, 6. You know, he held that Commanders offense somewhat in check outside of that garbage time touchdown against the Commanders. How about the job that this Eagles defense did against the number 1 ranked Miami Dolphins offense? I think Sean Desai has done some really good things, but it is a new scheme with some different personnel. That Cowboys game, the first game all year that the Eagles have had the same starting secondary in back-to-back games. So that's caused some issues, too, on that back end. Cool Reigns, I reckon that Albert O could surprise some people and play very well and be tight end, too, when Dallas Goedert comes back. What do you think? I agree. Albert Okwuegbunam has all of the ability in the world to be a very successful pass-catching tight end in the NFL. And I think the Eagles looked at the spider chart, they looked at the RAS score, they looked at the athletic ability, and they're willing to take a chance on a player like that. When you watch a guy who's this gifted take the field and at that size and that speed, where he's like 6'6", 240, 250, running a 4.4, who has soft hands, who can make guys miss, run you over, and pick up yards after the catch, I think that Albert O could be a late bloomer. The issue here is that he's an awful blocker at that tight end spot. So you use him in the slot, I think that he could be a serious weapon for this team going down the stretch. Jerome Myers, what are your predictions for the next 5 weeks? We actually have those games that we can pop up. This is good stuff here as far as the schedule and litmus tests and providing the Eagles with a stout challenge, getting them playoff ready. Hopefully they're able to escape this run without any serious injuries, because the last 3 games of the year, pretty easy. Dog shit Giants team twice, and then the Arizona Cardinals. Chiefs on the road, Bills at home, Niners at home, at Cowboys, at Seahawks. I think if you go 4-1, that is glorious. You go 3-2, that's a massive win. I think this Eagles team is way too good and way too battle-tested to go 2-3. I don't think it's going to be a losing record. I'm going 3-2. That's my best guess, and that's fine because of the schedule to round out the season. They'll still have an opportunity to get that number 1 seed in the NFC. Jimmy McGrath, what are your thoughts on the secondary, especially interchanging the slot? I think Bradley Roby coming back is going to be a big addition for this team. You got to get the secondary figured out, because if you do that, you become, with that defensive line, the depth of it, the overall talent, and the pass rush, which has helped the Eagles be victorious, closing those games out the last 2 weeks. This could be a scary team, especially with the offense really getting it going as well. But the Eagles are 29th in passing yards allowed per game at 257. They are tied for 31st in passing touchdowns allowed, 19. But they're arguably the best team against the run. So teams know that regardless of who the quarterback is, they can chuck it against this Eagles secondary if that pass rush can't get home. First in rushing yards allowed per game at 66, and then tied for second with rushing touchdowns allowed. Andrew Nathan, I hope we play more zone on Bradbury's half of the field. Let him play off the field and play the route in front of him. They could keep Byard in deep coverage, and they could make plays on the ball. Again, I think that in today's NFL, you always want to mix up your looks from man to zone to different fronts, just to give and try to confuse the quarterbacks a little bit. Because if you interchange those looks, they never know what's coming. And I think that's obviously giving an edge to the defense if you can be multiple on the defensive side of the field. Before we hop on out of here, if you want your questions answered during a future show, subscribe to the channel. You can be a part of it. We go live a couple of times per week, so hit that sub button down below. And as always, go Birds! All right, up to $40 in supers. If we get to 100, I'm doing a beer bong. We're going to pop up our 2-minute super chat shot clock here.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Dos. 2-minute super chat shot clock. If you want us to extend the show, send in a super chat right now.
If somebody wants to get us there, we're 60 away. If someone wants to send in a 60, get us there, you'll get a double beer bong. I'll hop in.
Bong. How about it?
I'll hop in.
How about it?
But it's got to be 160 right now. 2 minutes.
$60 super chat, 2 beer bongs, and that gets us to our desired goal of 100. If not, all good. We already broke down the breaking news, couple of more segments, because who's giving you coverage like us?
Ain't nobody.
Ain't nobody. Do we have any Sixers fans in the chat? If you're a Sixers fan, I want you to type me right now. Type me if you're a Sixers fan.
Where y'all at? I know we got a bunch in here.
Type me if you're a Sixers fan. Chip will give you shout-outs if you type me and you're a Sixers fan.
Bird Gang Eagles says, me a little. Why just a little? Because of their recent playoff performances, I'd imagine. Chester's a Sixers fan. David says basketball sucks. Kane Angel's a Miami Heat fan.
Oh, no.
No.
Miami
Tino?
Heat report with Nick Roloff.
Tino is a Knicks fan?
Who that bull? Who that bull? Who that bull? Who that bull? Thank you, my bull. $20 super chat right there.
Let's go.
That gets us to 60. And I asked you if you're a Sixers fan because, Chip, I sent you that picture. If we want to pop that up, producer Chip and I, we're working basically a double shift today. We're doing a little Sixers Celtics watch party tonight. So I hope all of you who are Sixers fans, you come hang out with us. Chester Wysinski, me. What's up? Oh, is that what we're doing? Yeah, just do the chicken plate with the sweet potatoes and the mac and cheese. Thanks, bro. Yep. Godfrey Wilson, me, all Philly sports. See, 444 Philly sports fans. That's good stuff. So who that bull sent in the 20? We got to reset the super chat shot clock here. Got it in before the buzzer. We are 40 away from a beer bong here on the show. So if you are a Sixers fan, I know that this is the Eagles channel. I know not all of you like basketball, but some of you do. And if you like me and Chip, we're going to have a lot of fun. A lot of you tune into our Eagles watch parties. Our NBA watch parties are also very entertaining. Sixers Celtics at the Wells Fargo Center tonight. This will be the best place to experience the game outside of being at the Wells Fargo Center. It's 76ers now by Chat Sports. Join us over there tonight. Half-hour pregame show starts at about 7 o'clock Eastern. Bird Gang asks when this watch party. 30 minutes before the game. We just told you. There you go. Who dat bull? I never got my sign. I'm trying to make an Eagles man cave. What sign are you talking about, who dat bull? We sent out all of our super chat items, who dat bull.
Everything's in shipping now.
It's out of our hands. We could send you an autographed picture of who dat bull. You just got to email me, chase@chatsports.com. 2-minute super chat shot clock activated once again. We're approaching 120. If you want us to stay live, send in a super. $40 more away from a beer bong. Andrew Nathan Chase, bye-week watch party. Does Chat Sports have a red zone? We actually have done a red zone from time to time. I'll be doing Jags-Niners, though, in that early slot. Cool Rains, the Sixers are 5-1, and the Celtics are 5-1. Max, I'm a Sixers fan. Join us tonight for the watch party on 76ers Now. I'll throw the link in the chat so that you can subscribe to the channel.
If you weren't there for our first one, we did opening night watch party. It was electric. It was a great game. Tonight's going to be another great game.
Yeah.
So make sure you're there. They're a lot of fun. We give you deals just like we always do. It's going to be a good time. And the Sixers, for those of you who don't know, starting off the season very, very strong. 5-1 to start the year. Celtics are, I believe, 6-1. So it's an early battle for first place in the East.
Yep.
In Philly.
Link is in the chat right now. Sixers Now watch party. Marcella, $20 super chat. Beating the super chat shot clock. Gets it in on time. And now we are $20 away from a beer bong on a Wednesday afternoon on Philadelphia Eagles Now. How about that, Dallas? Minus 16.5 point line against the Giants, only because they're in the division. My goodness, that's crazy. 16.5? You rarely see that at the NFL level. Tino Major. Hopefully I pronounced that right. If I didn't, I apologize. Dallas sucks. Thank you, Tino. He said Dallas sucks twice. Tito! Appreciate it, brother. Hey, we're 20 away from a beer bong. Resetting the Super Chat shot clock. Who dat bull? Who dat bull? Who dat bull? Who dat bull? That's technically the proper pronunciation and spelling there, B-U-U-L. I've always just said B-U-L-L, and I've just refused to move off of it. B-O-U-L, that's another one too. A lot of different iterations. All right, Chip, pop yourself up. I'm going to go get the beer bong ready, and we'll do that, then we'll hop on out of here. Good stuff, everybody.
Yes, sir. Good stuff. Getting us there, no problem.
By the way, we're technically 7 cents away from 100. We're at 99.93 right now.
Someone send in 7 cents. Kane, should I come to Sixers for Chase and Chib? Yeah, just come hang out. Come hang out. The NBA streams are awesome. The games are very fast-paced, very free-flowing. Byron Nails sending in the 5. Still high off that win. Go Birds! Real John. A lot of real ones. And Junior. We asked for the 7 cents. Junior sent us in the 1. And Junior is a first-time Super Chatter. Junior, appreciate it. David Marcellus says, F Trizzy. Oh, Trizzy's not over here right now, but I'll make sure to let him know you told him that. I'll make sure to let him know. Junior, shout out Junior and Byron. Shout out everyone hanging out with us here today. But yeah, make sure to come and hang out with us tonight. 7 p.m. Eastern, we'll be live probably about 6:30 Eastern. 30-minute pregame show before we get into the game. Going back here, Byron's a Nets fan. Ooh. Jerome, the Clippers have our problem now. Yeah. Clippers lost their first game with James Harden. I don't think it's going to work out. I don't think it's going to work out. It's never worked out anywhere he's gone. Never worked out anywhere Harden's been. He claims to be the system. Says he's not part of the system. He is the system. We'll see about that, buddy. We'll see about that in L.A. I think he just wanted to be in L.A. I'm going to be honest. You know, from the area, I think he just wanted to be in L.A. Cool Rants. I'm not sure. I didn't actually see your comment when I said this. Not sure if you heard me earlier. Sixers are 5-1. Sixers are 5-1. Lost their first game of the year in a nail-biter to the Bucks. Had a watch party for that one. They've ripped off 5 straight in a row. New head coach Nick Nurse has been doing a tremendous job. Tyrese Maxey blossoming into an all-star level player. So they're an exciting, fun team. It's not the Sixers of the past, I'll tell you that. Glenn Rivers is no longer here, so there's some hope. There is some hope.
Let's do it. Kane Angel, Knicks fan, by the way. Very interesting. Sixers fans, feel free to boo at me. Boo. I didn't know Junior Vila was a first-time Super Chatter.
That's what it says.
That's awesome. Junior. All right, you want to pop me back up? Bergang Eagles, where is Chase? I was getting the beer bong ready. So we got past 100. Beer bong up on deck. Let's go.
There we go. Chug, 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 bang!
Byron got us over. Byron the OG. And Junior, thank you so much for that. All right, we're going to sign off here. Hope y'all enjoyed the show. Oh, Jimmy McGrath going to Xfinity after this. That's dope, man. Going for the Sixers game, or are you going there, then the Sixers game, Jimmy? I miss Xfinity Live. I went to Texas Live last week for the Rangers World Series parade. That's where I was wearing that Eagles jersey, getting middle fingers put in my face, called every which name. Jimmy said both. That's dope, man. Have a night. But Texas Live is actually kind of better than Xfinity Live because it's a little bit newer and bigger. So I've had fun there, but it's nothing like Xfinity Live. I miss it. Kane Angel said, wait, I might ditch y'all for Heat against Grizzlies. Come on, Kane. Hope to see you there. All right, thanks everybody who tuned in to our breaking news coverage of this Nakobe Dean injury. We did some bye week changes. We took your questions during this mailbag. Go Birds as always. It's the bye week for Philadelphia, but our coverage will not stop. So be on the lookout for coverage and videos every single day. For Chip, I'm Chase. For the Fly Eagles Fly family right here on Eagles Now. We out. Peace.